That too. All right, I can't see you all, but I hope, can you hear me? I have a feeling you can. You can always hear me. So I won't be able to see your expressions as I talk, and that might be a good thing. Okay, good afternoon. I am Suffolk born and Suffolk bred. In my life, I have not had what many would consider a great adventures. I have not climbed Mount Everest. I have not kayaked down the Amazon, and I have not created a successful business. But what I have experienced are what I consider a series of mini adventures, those special times that continue to bring me smiles and chuckles. Almost every day, I drive past my childhood home, a red brick apartment on Broad Street. I immediately return to carefree times with neighborhood friends that were with me from those early days all the way through high school and beyond. We were really more like a gang than a group of friends because we made forts in everybody's backyard. On Saturday mornings, we would hop on our bikes, pretty much in our pajamas, while our moms were cooking breakfast. We would go down 2nd Avenue, cut through the Andrews property, and go play at Wellens Park on the playground, and then come back. I remember very well one time, 3 houses down, Bobby Worrell, who many of you knew, his dad ran Bradshaw's, the local drugstore on the corner where we all hung out as teenagers. He had a caterpillar infestation in his backyard like nothing you've ever seen. I don't know if there are pecan trees back there, I think, but there might have been, in my 5-year-old mind, 1 million caterpillars all on the ground. We all went home, put on our cowboy boots, and stomped out as many as we could. That was our world. Then I had a wonderful neighbor next door. Her name was Mrs. Seymour. She was a seamstress, and my mom would mend, but she didn't really sew. So I so enjoyed going next door and looking at her piles of clothes that she was going to mend, watching her at the sewing machine, putting things together and making it, and thought, that is really cool and different. But my real reason was that she made the best peach ice cream in the world. And I was so hoping she was going to say, Gail, would you like a little peach ice cream? But that was a really special memory. Since I was the oldest of 4, I was shipped out every summer to my grandmother Mubby's home in Salisbury, Maryland. I felt really grown up when I boarded the Trailways bus and traveled on my own. I was so excited for the ride because we went on the ferry from Norfolk to Kiptopee. There was no bridge tunnel. I mean, you know I'm dating myself. But the joy of getting off that bus on your own, you'd sat behind the bus driver, being able to get up, go to the snack bar, and hopefully it was on the Princess Anne, which was the nicest ferries. There were 4, and we knew in our family which one was the fastest, the ugliest, and the best one, and it was the Princess Anne. And being able to walk out and look over the water and see the seagulls at 8 years old, I thought I was really grown up. That was big time, I can tell you that. All by myself was really a good part of my life then, just kind of growing up and being able to figure out what's going on in the world. And my grandmother, she was really a role model for me. She allowed me to, I interacted with adults the whole time I was with her. Well, I had special friends, and those friends in Salisbury and Ocean City, they were socially ahead of the Suffolk folks. Let me just say that. I kind of akin them to kind of the bandstand, the days on TV. They reminded me of the Philadelphia type person I had in my mind. They were nice, and they were all my age, but they were fully into partying much earlier than we were. And I have to admit that it was with that group of friends that I played my first game of Spin the Bottle, and I took my first sip. So that's what happened up north, the damn Yankees, I guess. Anyway, while I hardly remember my college classes, I do remember some of the good stuff. I vividly recall the times out of class. And I dare say I could stop here and ask every one of you all, come on, give me one of yours. Because those are the times that you remember in your life and continue to bring you smiles. On our first winter break at Mary Washington, 5 friends and myself, we hopped into my mother's Ford station wagon and we headed to Stowe, Vermont. I'd never been there, never been north of Salisbury, Maryland. This was new to me. We had been warned, and you didn't have Doppler weather then, several days before, that a blizzard was heading our way. did not deter us at all. We went and got chains for the tires for the car, and I turned the keys over to my friend Susie, who lived in New York, because I knew that someone from New York knew how to drive in snow, so it would be no problem. We headed out, and the warnings on the radio were no one on the roads. The New Jersey Turnpike is a whiteout. That was us. We were on the New Jersey Turnpike in the whiteout, just cruising, packed all in the car. We lost one piece of luggage that flew off the top. I can't remember whose it was, and somebody said, "Stop the car, let's go get the luggage." We didn't do that, but we made it, and I do have to say it was a great experience. Up in Stowe, I had 3 firsts. I saw what I call my first big mountain, a real mountain. That was exciting. And then I put on my first skis. And then the first time I busted my buns, and the second and third. And then I had my first cream of wheat. And that's something I still love. That was just something in Virginia we didn't have. That was not something we had. So my next college experience that really stands out in my mind was a story about Frank and the horse. Frank was a boy I dated at Washington and Lee. And he had a horse that he kept off campus. And he said, "Gail, I'm going to bring the horse in and we're going to take a ride." And I thought, oh man, this is exciting. I really don't ride horses, but don't worry, I'll go along for the ride. Brought the horse into town, and he had stayed in a home with a bunch of other guys, shared rooms or whatever. And the horse was right up there on the front lawn, and it was bareback. There was no saddle. And he hopped on and he said, "Hop on." I looked at this big back on that horse and I said, "You've got to be kidding me." So he managed to maneuver the horse over to where the steps were, and with a big pull from his hand, I hopped on the back. We proceeded to go into town and up the hill in front of Washington and Lee. I don't know if any of you know, and I'm not real remembering of it, other than it's massive hills that you go up to the classrooms at the top, and I'm sure a beautiful historic building right in the middle where Robert E. Lee must have done something fantastic. But anyway, we rode that horse up the hill. He then said, "Come on, we're going to go down now." So he turned the horse around and whatever, and we flew down the hill right into his fraternity house. We rode the horse into the fraternity house. Okay, needless to say, I didn't marry him, but it was an interesting ride. That's all I'm going to say. My work world began when I was 14, and that was washing hair at Mary Eckerd's Beauty Salon on Penner Street. It's where my mother had her hair done. And a lot of the women would go there on Saturdays because they had a party that night or they wanted to look good for church. So my job was to get those heads washed so that Mary could then do her beautification. I didn't do real well at washing heads. I was always afraid I was going to hurt these old ladies. You know, your young hands are in the head, and they would say, scrub harder. And I kind of said, I don't think this is where I'm going to have my career in life. So that was kind of in a phase, but it was a good phase. And then I had a couple of other jobs in high school here in town at the fashion shop with Coleman Davis and selling all nice clothes to the nice ladies in town. And since many of you in here know these folks, Tom Brothers was one of my favorite customers. He, at that time, was newly married to Betsy Brothers, and he would come in every Christmas or birthday. "Gail, find something pretty for me for Betsy." And that was fun, just going through the shop and helping him spend money. That was a lot of fun. As a young wife and mother, I ventured out to work part-time at Montgomery Ward, right down here next to Chick-fil-A, where I sold appliances. I knew nothing about refrigerators and TVs. One keeps food cold and then you have entertainment. But I learned at the knee of 2 long-term stern employees who were really teaching me the ropes. What I really learned was how little I knew. They kept reminding me every day, "No, that's wrong. That's not what you say. You've got to say something else." But excitement came in the hot summer. That was air conditioning season. All of a sudden, people were coming in off the streets, and we were selling air conditioners out the kazoo. I could not write up a ticket fast enough. I didn't have to know a thing about an air conditioner. And when I got that commission check, I thought I had won the lottery. So that was really an exciting time in my world. Life was good. Several years later, I entered the banking world, where for 35 years and 4 mergers, I enjoyed helping folks achieve their financial goals. I really derived a lot of satisfaction of helping folks, certainly in the good times when they were buying a home or opening up their first account. But my real pleasure, I think, came helping people who were in a difficult financial position, or frankly were not financially literate, just work through those tough times and find themselves in a better place. Two little situations that I recall that happened when I was at United Virginia Bank. I mean, we're talking here, now this is about back in 1970, well, for me, it would be, this would have been about 76, somewhere about 1976. Teacher came in, a very prominent lady in town, and she was always on the overdrawn list. We had overdrawn lists back in those days. Nowadays, it doesn't matter, folks can overdraw, it doesn't matter, the bank's gonna cover it all. But back then, you were responsible for managing your account. So anyway, she came in, a very nice lady, but very flustered and upset. I must have had I probably worked with her 2 or 3 times trying to help her understand what's causing the overdraft. Well, I just didn't think about it, I forgot, and I want all my fees back. I cannot tell you the amount of money I gave her back, and she never seemed to improve. One day she came in and very frustrated and angry, and I was kind of at the limit of what I could do for her, and I felt like I had gotten her in the right place to really understand her responsibility. She looked at me straight in the eye and she said, "I don't think you understand. I'm a teacher. I go to school every day. I work all day with students. My job is to teach. You come to the bank and it's your job to take care of my account." Whoa. That's my world. Welcome to the world of working with the public. That's it. That's all I'm going to say. The next thing that really stood out that I remember, and I think a lot of you in this room will appreciate this, was probably about in 1978, not long after, 77, when I was promoted to a banking officer, I was so excited. To me, that was the pinnacle. I saw myself on a road to having a career and really feeling good about what I could do. So that was a good thing. And I was feeling really proud. I'd probably known this for 2 days when my boss said, "Gail, I need to speak with you," and took me back in the office and said, "I need to talk with you about your promotion." And I immediately thought, this doesn't sound good. It was very serious. He said, "Well, I've gotten a call from Human Resources." And I said, "Ooh, this is really not sounding good." And he said, "They said that when they looked at the job requirements and the expectations that we have for you, that we've got to pay you more money." That was an aha moment, okay? That's all I'm going to say. That was really good. So since I've retired on more than one occasion, I can be in the checkout line at Kroger, I can be filling my cart with gas at Walmart. I cannot tell you the number of people that come up to me or I interact with and say, "You're the bank lady, aren't you? Or you made me my first loan, or you opened my first account." And you know what? That's reward enough. That was reward enough that you still remember after all these years, and it's a delight to go back and remember those really happy days. It was banking that really allowed me to experience some amazing adventures by being involved in the community, both in Suffolk and in the greater Hampton Roads area. And frankly, this became my passion and my personal upper. The combination of working at the bank, and they wanted you to be out in the community at that time. They allowed you, they gave you the time. I found my real passion and energy was derived from working with successful people in the private sector who said, "We've had our success in business, but we think it's important that we give equally back to the community by being a part of organizations that make a difference." I can go a list of names, but many of you know the names. They were just fantastic leaders and great mentors and great teachers. From them, I became so inspired and I learned a lot, and I learned the possibilities of what can happen when good people with smart minds get together to figure out how to solve a problem. I really found that that was the greatest thing that I spent many years doing. It was just a lot of fun. And one of those organizations was Rotary. Back in the days, I always knew Rotary to be my dad. I have on my dad's badge. This is my dad. And my brother Greer was in the club. Rotary was known to be the club for businessmen in Suffolk. We knew that you did good work. We knew that you gave back to the community. But we also, on the outside, knew that Rotary had a lot of characters who could sling a lot of bull, and that you needed to be able to take it. And if you were going to be a Rotarian, you couldn't just dish it out. You had to be able to take it and give it back. And that was just, to me, kind of cool that I considered it was a guy's club, a good thing. Times change. Joyce Trump, who was then the superintendent of schools, was the first woman invited to be in the Rotary Club. Soon after, in 1995, Becky Hobble, who was then an attorney and subsequently a judge, and I were invited to be in the club. So, did I say a word wrong?
No.
Okay, sorry. Okay, that's okay. Anyway, we were invited, and it's really funny. I can only speak for myself, but I'm pretty confident in this. None of us were bothered by being the only three women. We were used to working in men's worlds. We were used to interacting every day. We were used to bantering back and forth. That was nothing that, it just didn't bother us. We never got our feelings hurt. We didn't feel, oh dear, somebody said something I shouldn't hear, I'm embarrassed. We probably, I don't know, we were probably not really women's libets too much. We were people who wanted to be a part of an organization that made a difference. And the Rotary Club was it. So we excitedly joined, and we had a good time. And we, much to the concern of a lot of the men who some of you are probably in here, who thought, we'll have no fun anymore. These women are going to dampen our opportunity to toss the poop around. Well, we just let it toss, and kind of like Teflon, it went over our heads. And if it did stick in a way we didn't like, we had no problem getting up and dealing with it. It was all okay. It all worked well. That was fine. So Rotary meant a lot to me for a lot of years, but it gave me another opportunity and a real mini adventure. That was in 2007. As club president, I had the rare opportunity to attend the Rotary International Convention in Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City in itself is a whole program to talk about. That's a really special place. But for years, I had read the Rotary magazine. I read it and enjoyed it, and reading about the magnificent work Rotarians did all over the world. I mean, basically, trying to give clean water in countries, trying to take care of impoverished people, and certainly Everett knows with the peanut butter, trying to feed people in the world, big things that really made a difference. And that made me proud. But to go to a Rotary International Convention and to see the very people who were achieving this success, to hear them talk about the challenges they had in getting there, and how by collaborating in their communities and with their countries and other organizations, they had created great successes, it elevated my pride in Rotary. And I am so proud to wear this pin, as I know you are. So there's more to Rotary than what we do here. And I think we always need to be reminded of that, keep that up there in our eyesight. It's really important. I really feel like now is my time to sit down, but I do not want to fail. I don't want to fail the four-way test. And the first one on there is the truth. I said I had never had a great adventure. Well, I did. I had the best adventure of my life. 38 years with my wonderful husband and partner. I missed the heck out of him. I wish I'd had more. But you know what? It was a blessing. It was all a good blessing. And I hope that there are still a few mini adventures in my future. With 4 children, 10 grandchildren, and soon to be 4 great-grandchildren, I think I will have plenty of activity, plenty to celebrate. So I really know that life is good, and every day I have an opportunity to get up and get it right. Cheers.